Okay, you guys, so we're going to get into graphing tangent and cotangent in today's lesson, starting off with graphing tangent. Now, in the similar fashion that we figured out the points to the 5-point method with sine and cosine, we're going to approach that with tangent. However, tangent is different because it has a pattern that repeats every pi. So, the period of y equals tan x is pi. So make sure to just get that in your head now. The reason why it's pi is because every 180 degrees, or every pi radians, it repeats. So you can see 2 full rotations on the unit circle. Now, the 2 rotations are actually starting at negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. And that's going to lead us to our table. The reason why we're not starting at 0 and going to pi is because tangent is going to be undefined in a couple of places. And if we start from 0 to pi, it's not going to make sense. So I'm going to start at negative pi over 2. And I'm going to show you all the way to pi so that you guys can just see it. So I'm going to go a little farther than necessary. So then we have negative pi over 4, 0, pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and then pi. So tangent is sine over cosine. So at negative pi over 2, that's this right here, sine over cosine, so negative 1 over 0 is undefined. When things are undefined, it is an asymptote. So we're going to have some asymptotes in this graph. At negative pi over 4, it's negative root 2 over 2 over root 2 over 2. So that's negative 1. At 0, it's 0 over 1, which is 0. Pi over 4, it's root 2 over 2 over root 2 over 2. So that's just 1. Pi over 2, it's 1 over 0, which is not 0. It's undefined because you cannot divide by 0. 3 pi over 4 is negative 1, and then pi is 0. So if we were to look at doing this from 0 to pi in the similar fashion that we did with sine and cosine, you would see that it would be 0, 1, undefined, negative 1, 0. There'd be this undefined piece, in the middle stopping your graph. Now, if we start it at negative 2 and go to pi over 2, you can see it has an asymptote and an asymptote, and it's sitting in the middle. That's the graph's going to be looking like, okay? So this right here is going to be your 5-point method. So go ahead, make sure you have this down in your notes. Obviously, I have these little markings all over it. We're going to get into, I'll show you the graph in a second, but we're looking from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this unit circle, and I'm going to bring in the tangent graph. Now, the tangent graph, a couple things to notice. Obviously, my rough sketch looks a lot like it. Your values, as you're approaching your asymptotes, are getting bigger as you go to negative 2. They're getting smaller as you go to, positive pi over 2. And they're getting smaller as you go to negative pi over 2. So they continue on infinitely as they approach the asymptotes, but they never touch them. And you can see also this is repetitive. It is not continuous because there are the asymptotes, but it is periodic and it's cyclical in the sense that it continues over and over and over every pi. Now you can see this is the difference between sine and cosine, because sine and cosine, their pattern didn't start over until you had gone 1 full rotation around your unit circle, which is 2 pi. Here you can see in the form of 2 pi, you're actually getting 2 periods in that, so therefore 1 period is pi. Okay, so go ahead and get this graph down. In this 5-point method, all you need to know is undefined, -1, 0, 1, and undefined. And that is for tangent. We will not be doing horizontal shift or vertical shift, but we will be doing vertical stretch and horizontal stretch in a second. So we're adding on 1 layer, but it's not going to be the biggest layer of work.